You are a nobody in a cheap shirt. Miller, take her out now, or I'll have your badge too." Miller hesitated. He looked at me. I reached into my bag and pulled out my Black Centurion card. I didn't hand it to Julian. I slid it across the marble. It made a heavy metallic clink that echoed through the lobby. Julian didn't even look at the name on the card. He picked it up with 2 fingers, like it was a piece of trash. "I've seen better fakes at a souvenir shop," he said. And he did something he would regret for the rest of his life. He dropped the card on the floor and stepped on it. He ground his heel into the black titanium. "Now get out, before I call the actual police." At that exact moment, my laptop chimed. The connection to the hotel's main display system was established. "Time's up," I said. The silence that followed the screen turning red was the loudest thing I've ever heard. It wasn't just a change in lighting, it was a shift in the molecular structure of the room. Julian's hand, which had been hovering over the keyboard to call the police, began to tremble so violently that he had to grip the edge of the mahogany counter just to stay upright. Vicky's face, previously a mask of aristocratic disdain, had drained of all color, leaving her looking like a wax figure melting under the heat of the crystal chandeliers. What did you do?" Julian whispered. His voice had lost its sharp, mocking edge. It was thin, like a frayed wire. I didn't answer him. I didn't have to. I simply tilted my laptop screen further so he could see the administrative dashboard. On the screen, a real-time log was scrolling. User S_Parker_CEO. Access level 10. Owner. Location, Grand Obsidian Chicago Lobby, Terminal 01. "I didn't do anything, Julian," I said, my voice cutting through the heavy air like a scalpel. "I simply logged in. You see, when I acquired the Obsidian Group, I had my tech team install a God mode protocol in the server. It allows me to override any local terminal in the world if I suspect the brand is being compromised. And tonight, the brand isn't just compromised, it's bleeding." I tapped a key, and the giant 80-inch screen behind the desk changed again. It stopped being a red warning sign and started displaying a spreadsheet. But it wasn't a normal spreadsheet. It was the conflict and resolution log for Julian and Vicky's specific shift over the last 6 months. Rows of red text began to populate the screen. Every time a guest had complained about unwelcoming behavior, every time a person of color had been told their reservation couldn't be found, every time someone in casual clothes had been redirected to a budget lodge, it was all there. "You thought these were gone, didn't you, Vicky?" I asked, looking at the assistant manager. "You thought that by resolving these internally and not forwarding them to the regional office, you were protecting your job. But the server doesn't forget. It archives every keystroke. Every time you deleted a complaint, the system made a shadow copy and sent it directly to my private server in Singapore." Vicky's eyes darted toward the revolving door, as if she were considering running. "Ms. Parker, please. There were circumstances. The guest profile for this location is very specific. We have to maintain a certain atmosphere." "An atmosphere of what, Vicky?" I asked, stepping closer to the counter. "An atmosphere of exclusion. Because according to these numbers, your atmosphere has cost this hotel $1.2 million in lost revenue over the last 2 quarters. You aren't protecting the brand, you're cannibalizing it." The guests in the lobby were now fully invested. The elderly couple who had previously looked away in embarrassment were now leaning forward, their eyes wide. The young man with the live stream was narrating to his audience in a frantic whisper. "Y'all, she has the receipts. She's showing the hidden files. This is the end of the line for them." I looked at the clock. 12:05 a.m. The transition had begun. "Miller," I said, turning to the security guard who was still standing in the middle of the lobby, frozen in a state of professional shock. "I need you to do something for me. Close the front doors. Lock them. No one leaves this lobby until the audit is finalized." Miller didn't hesitate this time. He caught my eye, saw the absolute authority there, and nodded. He moved to the brass revolving doors and engaged the security locks. The hiss of the pneumatic seals felt like the closing of a tomb. I turned back to the desk. "Julian, step away from the terminal." "Hands behind your back." Julian looked like he wanted to argue, but the giant screen behind him was now displaying his own personnel file in 4K resolution. Under the disciplinary history section, there were 3 separate warnings for inappropriate language. That had been suppressed. "You called me trash 5 minutes ago," I reminded him. "You told me I looked like I shopped at a clearance rack. You told me I didn't know how many zeros were in 5,000. I leaned in, my face inches from his. "Let me educate you, Julian. There are 9 zeros in a billion, and that is the scale of the company you just insulted." I tapped the enter key on my laptop. A high-pitched chime echoed through the lobby, the sound the hotel system makes when a high-level executive order is processed. On the giant screen, the words "termination for cause" appeared in flashing white letters over Julian's face. "Effective immediately," I announced. "Your access to all Sterling Obsidian properties is revoked. Your health insurance, your 401k matching, and your standing in the Hospitality Guild are nullified. You are being fired for a violation of the Guest Dignity Act, Section 14.3. This will be a permanent mark on your digital employment record. You will never work in a 5-star hotel again. Not as a manager, not as a valet, not even as a dishwasher." Julian's knees finally gave out. He slid down the side of the mahogany desk, his slicked-back hair messy for the first time. He looked like a man who had just watched his entire life vanish into a cloud of data. But I wasn't done. I turned my gaze to Vicky. "Vicky, you're the assistant manager?" I said. "Oh, you were the adult in the room. You were the one hired to prevent exactly what happened tonight. Instead, you provided the cover. You were the architect of this culture." I clicked another icon. Vicky's file opened. It showed her salary, her bonuses, and her private communication logs with the regional manager. "I see here you've been receiving performance bonuses based on keeping undesirable guest numbers low," I said, my voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "Who authorized those bonuses, Vicky? Was it Carter?" Vicky stayed silent, her eyes locked on the floor. "It doesn't matter," I said. "I'll find out when I gut the regional office tomorrow morning. For now, you are terminated for gross negligence and civil rights violations. And unlike Julian, I won't just let you walk out. I'm filing a civil suit against you for brand defamation. My lawyers will be in touch by sunrise." The rest of the night staff, the bellhop who had been smirking, the second desk clerk who had been hiding in the shadows, were now huddled together like sheep in a storm. They knew what was coming. They had watched their leaders fall, and they knew they were next. "All of you," I said, gesturing to the group. "You had a choice tonight. You could have stepped forward. You could have said, 'Julian, that's enough.' You could have offered me a glass of water while I waited. You could have treated me like a human being. But you chose the path of least resistance. You chose to be part of the bully's entourage." I didn't even look at their files. I just highlighted the entire night shift active roster on my screen and hit the delete key. "You're all gone," I said. "Go to the back, gather your things. And Miller will escort you out the service entrance. Do not speak to the guests. Do not take anything that isn't yours. If you even touch a piece of hotel stationery on your way out, I'll have you charged with theft." As they began to slink away, heads bowed, I turned back to Miller. The big security guard was standing near the doors, watching the exodus with a look of profound relief. It was the look of a man who had been holding his breath for 3 years and was finally allowed to breathe. "Miller," I said, walking toward him. "Come here." He walked over, his heavy boots echoing on the marble. "Yes, Miss Parker." "I've been watching the footage from the last 2 hours," I said. "I saw how you handled that family earlier. You tried to give them the vouchers for the breakfast buffet, didn't you? Even after Julian told them they couldn't stay." Miller rubbed the back of his neck, looking embarrassed. "They had kids, ma'am. It was cold out. I couldn't just let them walk away with nothing." "You have a soul, Miller," I said. "In this business, that's rarer than a 5-star rating. I checked your file while I was waiting in the chair. You have a degree in hospitality management from UNLV. You were a rising star at the Marriott before you moved back here to take care of your sick mother. Why are you wearing a security uniform?" "It was the only job they'd give me, ma'am," Miller said quietly. "Vicky said I didn't have the obsidian look for the front desk. Said I was too rough around the edges." "Well," I said, reaching out and unpinning the security badge from his chest. I think the obsidian look is exactly what caused this hotel to rot. I want a new look. I want your look." I turned back to the terminal. "I am appointing you as the acting general manager of the Grand Obsidian Chicago. Your salary is being tripled, effective 5 minutes ago. You have full hiring and firing authority, and your first task is to find that family. They're probably at the Motel 6 by the airport. Send a car. Bring them back, and give them the presidential suite. I want them to wake up tomorrow feeling like they own this city." The lobby was empty of staff now. It was just me, Miller, the guests, and the ghost of Julian's arrogance. The young man with the live stream was still going, his viewer count now at an unbelievable 50,000 people. He was the new media at its most powerful, and tonight, he was my greatest witness. Miller," I said, "take the desk. I have a call to finish." I walked back to the velvet chair in the corner. I picked up my phone. The line to Tokyo was still open. Hiroshi, the Yamamoto counsel, had been listening to the entire thing. "Ms. Parker," he said. His voice was full of a new kind of respect, a quiet, heavy awe. "We heard. The entire board heard. We were on the speakerphone in the Tokyo conference room." "I apologize for the theatrics, Hiroshi," I said, leaning my head back against the velvet. "But, as you know, I don't invest in companies. I invest in standards, and the standards at this property were unacceptable." "On the contrary, Sophia," a new voice broke in. It was Mr. Yamamoto himself. "We were concerned about the rumors of the Obsidian's decline. We were worried that our partnership would be stained by the reputation of your flagship hotel. But after tonight, after seeing how you personally excise the cancer from your organization, we are more than convinced. You are the only person we want to do business with." I felt a wave of relief wash over me. The 14-hour flight, the dry air, the insults, the crushed credit card, it was all worth it. "I'm signing the contract now, Mr. Yamamoto," I said. I opened the document on my laptop. It was a digital PDF, glowing with the weight of $200 million. I used the trackpad to scrawl my signature at the bottom. Sophia Parker. "Done," I said. "The funds can be released to the escrow account." "It is a pleasure, Sophia," Yamamoto said. "Get some rest. You have earned it." I hung up the phone and closed my laptop. I sat there for a minute in the silence of my own lobby. It was 12:30 a.m. The adrenaline was starting to fade, replaced by a deep, bone-weary exhaustion. but it was a good tired. The kind of tired you feel after a harvest. Miller walked over to me carrying a gold-plated keycard. "The presidential suite is ready, Ms. Parker," he said. I went up there myself. I turned down the sheets, set the temperature to 72, and put out a fresh bottle of the 96 Krug. It's the least I could do. "Thank you, Miller," I said, taking the card. "Did you find the family?" "The car is on its way to them now," he replied, a wide grin on his face. "They were at a roadside inn near O'Hare. The father cried when I told him. He thought it was a prank at first." "Good," I said. "Make sure they have a full breakfast in the morning. Anything they want. Hey, if the kids want pancakes shaped like dinosaurs, make it happen." I stood up, slinging my messenger bag over my shoulder. I walked toward the gold-trimmed elevators. The young man with the live stream stepped in my path. He looked nervous, but his eyes were shining. "Ms. Parker," he said, "my name is Leo. I have 60,000 people on this stream. They're all asking the same thing. What do you have to say to the thousands of people who go through this every day but don't own the hotel? What happens to them?" I looked into the lens of his phone. I thought about all the times I had been that woman in the red top. I thought about the times I didn't have the $200 million deal in my bag. "What I have to say is this," I began, my voice clear and ringing. "Dignity is not a luxury. It is a right. It doesn't matter if you're in a tuxedo or a red cotton top. It doesn't matter if you have a Centurion card or a transit pass. You deserve to be seen. You deserve to be heard. And to the businesses that think they can pick and choose who to treat with respect, we are watching. And we are taking our money elsewhere." I turned and stepped into the elevator. The doors hissed shut, and for the first time in 24 hours, I was alone. The elevator rose silently. 30 floors, 40 floors, 50. When the doors opened to the presidential suite, the luxury was overwhelming. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Chicago skyline. The lights of the city twinkled like a million diamonds scattered on black velvet. It was exactly what I had paid for. I walked to the window and looked out. I could see the tiny headlights of the car Miller had sent, pulling into the driveway far below. The family was here. I sat down on the edge of the massive king-sized bed. I kicked off my sneakers and pulled off the red top. I looked at it for a second, a $12 shirt that had just changed the lives of a dozen people. I didn't throw it away. I folded it neatly and put it back in my bag. I had a feeling I might need it again. The next morning, the world was different. I woke up at 7 a.m. to the sound of my phone exploding with notifications. The live stream had gone viral. Hashtag Sophia Parker, hashtag Red Top Justice, and hashtag Grand Obsidian were the top 3 trending topics on every social media platform in the world. I walked down to the lobby, dressed this time in my charcoal blazer and a silk blouse. I wanted to see the morning shift. The lobby was buzzing, but the energy was different. It didn't feel like a cathedral anymore. It felt like a community. Miller was behind the desk, wearing a tailored suit that he must have pulled from the manager's emergency wardrobe. He looked like he was born for the job. The family, from the night before, was in the breakfast nook. The 2 kids were eating waffles, their faces covered in syrup, laughing as they looked out at the city. The father saw me and stood up, his eyes filling with tears again. I just nodded to him and tapped my heart. No words were needed. I walked over to Miller. "How's the morning going, GM?" "Better than I could have imagined, ma'am," Miller said. "I've had 50 applications for the open positions already. People who heard what happened and want to be part of the change." "And the Hendersons?" "Not the important guest Vicky was so worried about. They came down an hour ago. They told me it was the first time in 5 years the lobby felt like it had any life in it. They tripled their tip for the bellhop." I smiled. "Change is a powerful thing, Miller. My phone buzzed again. It was a text from the regional office. Ms. Parker, Michael Carter here. I heard about the incident. I'd like to discuss the misunderstandings regarding the night shift. I didn't reply. I just forwarded his text to my head of legal with one sentence. Fire him by noon. He's the one who authorized the bonuses. I walked out of the revolving doors and onto the sidewalk. The Chicago air was crisp and cold, but the sun was shining. My driver, Marcus, was waiting with the door open. "Good morning, Ms. Parker," he said, a knowing smile on his face. I saw the news. Quite a night." "It was a busy night, Marcus," I said, stepping into the car. "But the work is just beginning." "Where to next, ma'am?" I leaned back against the leather seat and looked at the list of the other 11 properties I had acquired in the Obsidian Group. "Let's go to the airport, Marcus," I said. "I hear the Obsidian in New York has an atmosphere problem too, and I think I still have that red top in my bag." As the car pulled away, I looked back at the Grand Obsidian one last time. The gold sign still said, "Excellence is our standard." But for the first time in a long time, it was actually the truth.